It's good to be back at Woodland Oaks. I was informed that it had been almost 3 years since I was here. I did not realize that. And yeah, Hurricane Harvey was something else. I got stranded in Houston for 4 extra days. And I was supposed to be here that night, and you know how that went. But it's good to be back with you. Yeah, I came during COVID. It was the end of 2020 when I was last here. And boy, that just seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? And I want to be here more often than that, and I didn't realize it had been that long. You at Woodland Oaks are great partners with us in helping us in 2 specific places in the world. I want to bring you up to speed on that, but also even more about the overall program and what is going on around the world. I think it's really exciting, and I think that you will agree. So let me just bring you up to speed. This is in Luanshya, Zambia, where you have partnered with us for quite some time, several years now. This photo was taken last year at the graduation. You may recognize that distinguished guest of honor right in the middle. Paul Giddon was able to visit on behalf of Woodland Oaks, and we were happy that he was able to make that trip. He tried to go before, others had tried to go before, but COVID knocked that out. He finally got there last year. Donnie Eastep is sitting next to him. He's the coordinator for that school. I want to bring you, then jump ahead. You guys are involved in Zim and Zam, Zambia and Zimbabwe. And this was on the same trip in October of 2022. Those schools, their graduations happened to line up about the same time. It was, which was really helpful for Paul's logistics, but we were happy that Paul could be there, and they were thrilled to see Paul as well. Now let me stop here and just tell you a few things about these 2 schools. Collectively, last year alone, in 2022, these students in Zambia and Zimbabwe together, the current students last year were involved in evangelistic efforts that resulted in 345 baptisms. Now that's just those students while they're in school. And I want you to think about the untold good, the exponential growth that lies just in those students. Let's just imagine a good round number. There's a collective, let's say 25 between the 2 schools. Let's use that as just a round number. And let's just imagine that each one of these students is going to go out, and let's just imagine, because of the fertile soil where they are, where people are so receptive to the gospel, that each one of these graduates is going to go out, and it's very realistic to imagine that each one of them will baptize 50 people per year. And let's just imagine that, and we're going to go a really conservative number here, let's just imagine that they each have 20 years of service like that. Now, you don't have to be a math major to figure out that's about 1,000 baptisms per person. And you multiply that by the 25 just in that 2-year batch, you got 25,000 souls, and that's a very realistic, in a way, conservative number to think about. Now you think about that. That's just one batch. There's a batch every 2 years. Every 2 years, imagine those kinds of possibilities. We are literally, you'll understand how I mean this, we are literally exchanging dollars for souls. It takes dollars to do this. And you know, dollars can do some really cool things. I like things that dollars can do. It can buy you food, it can buy you transportation, buy you lodging. But there's nothing better we can use our dollars on than helping people get to heaven. Am I right? And that's exactly what you guys are involved in, and we are so grateful for our partnership. We appreciate you so much. You are doing good in these places, and then where these graduates go in those places you've never heard of, with people you've never seen, and you won't meet until you get to heaven. And even while you're asleep, all kinds of good is being done because of the work that you are involved in. We appreciate you so much. Let me fast forward a little bit to the overall program. Since 2014, this is my benchmark because I can't remember what the numbers were behind that. So there's my admission. I don't remember what they were before that, so we'll start with 2014. At the end of that year, there were 17 schools. There are currently now 62 schools. We had schools in 14 countries. That number is now it has doubled to 31. Last year was a monumental year in a way that because it was the first time in the history of the program that the number of students had topped 1,000. 1,019 students around the world, taking the same curriculum, same courses, with the same academic expectations and objectives, but over 1,000. Again, take some of those same numbers, those hypothetical scenarios I mentioned a minute ago, extrapolate that, and we're talking about untold potential. Now here's the best one. End of 2014, there were about 2,000 baptisms by the students. Last year, about 3,500, as you can see. If you take the last 5 years, 2023, and work backwards 5 years, the total number of baptisms by current students, these are not graduates, it's just there are now too many graduates to try to track and keep up with as far as what they are doing, but the current students and teachers in the last 5 years have baptized more than 17,000 souls. So we encourage them. You know, if you're not evangelistic while you're in school, you're not going to be when you're out of school either. And so evangelism and campaigns and weekend preaching opportunities are a part of their education that is outside of the classroom. We'll share with you a few of the new schools around the world. This is Benin City, Nigeria. Now, you may have not heard of Benin City, Nigeria, but it is a city of 2 million people. Can you imagine? And Nigeria is so populous that there are cities like this that you've never heard of that are 2 and 3 and 5 million people. The number of souls in that country is amazing. It is the 5th or 6th most populous country in the world. Went to this city, did all the due diligence ahead of time, did the survey trip. I think it was August of last year. Everything looked ready to go and start the school in October of last year, which did happen. But I was texting the director one day, and I said, "How's it going?" He said, "Well, we've already had more than 50 applicants." Now, bear in mind, we tell them we need it's a minimum of 10 students. We weren't thinking 50, and I said, "Well, wait a minute, because we haven't started yet, and we're trying to keep the class numbers to a good number to keep the academic excellence on par." And so 20, 25 in a class is kind of where we max out. And so, wait a minute, you've already given out 50? Yes. I said, okay, but how many have passed, made at least 70% on the entrance exam? He said, well, all of them. It's a 100-question entrance exam. You have to make at least a 70, and that's part of the entrance process. And I said, okay, right now, stop. Don't give that to anybody else. No more applicants until we can find a second location. So that school began knowing it would need 2 locations. I visited there in May of this year, and it was a hard day. I began the day early morning in Lagos, Nigeria. I flew to a place called Warri. I visited school there. It has to have 2 locations. And then what was supposed to be a pretty easy 2 to 3 hour drive turned into just a nightmare of a day. When I finally got there, it was the end of the day. I was drenched in sweat, salt rings on my shirt, and I'm wondering, why in the world do I do this? And then I got there, and I saw them, and they told me, and I knew why I do this. They have 50 students, still have 50 students. And one of the men stood up and said, many of us have been to Bible schools, and we have never received this level of education in our lives. And what we have learned already has helped change our preaching and teaching and the churches where we are serving. And that's why we do what we do. Owerri, Nigeria, similar situation. Owerri is another city of 2 or 3 million. That school began the same day as the one in Benin City. Those are the teachers, and a couple of those men in the middle, 2 men in the middle are elders of that congregation. A very nice facility. The director of the school is the one there in the hat, and he preaches, and he's been to preacher training school, but most all preachers are not are self-supported, and he is an acupuncturist. I didn't know that was a thing in Nigeria, but he is an acupuncturist. Let's move along to one of the newest schools. This school began this year in February in the country of Chad. If you look at the map, you can see that part of Chad is in the Sahara Desert. Typically, if you look at that the map of Africa, the brown is Islamic. And it's not brown because it's Islamic, it just, those are two correlating facts. And then you move down to where it starts to become green, it's not as Islamic. Well, the country of Chad is predominantly Muslim, and it is also French-speaking. Now, typically in the church, we've shied away from French-speaking places because most of us, well, our French isn't so good, and in Islamic countries for obvious reasons. But we have just started a brand new preacher training school in a French-speaking Islamic country. And this was born out of the fact that one of our schools in the country of Cameroon, which is French-speaking, always had Chadian students because there's never been a preacher training school in that country. So students from there would either have to go to Chad or Benin or Ivory Coast. And they begged us, please help us have a school in our country. I did the due diligence on that, finally made the survey trip last year, and it is going. This is not as advanced as other African countries. You see there, Mundu is the city where the school is. Just above it is the capital in N'Djamena. And the flight I flew from Cairo to N'Djamena. There was only, I think, one woman that was not covered in hijab or full burqa. And you know you're not in Kansas anymore when you're in that setting. But from N'Djamena to Mundu's the second largest city in the country, there's not a flight. So I had to be driven. And you look at that map, and it's not that far. It's 300 miles, but the roads are so bad it took 9 hours. And so it was pretty much a challenge. But they're doing well. And here's a great fact: within the first month of that school being operating, they converted one of the chief imams in the city of Mundu. And I thought, I don't know if that's great or we just put a target on our back, but they got busy in a hurry, and they're already making a difference where they are. This is the country of Malawi, and Malawi is this really long, thin country, landlocked on the southern part of Africa. Some of you know Donnie Estep. He works with these schools as well. And in Lilongwe is the capital. Lilongwe, we have a new school. The idea was born pre-COVID. All of the work trying to get everything done was done pre-COVID, but then COVID. Well, it finally was able to start. This school is different. For one thing, the director is a Bear Valley, Denver graduate. He and his wife and daughter live there and have for close to a decade, I'm going to say. His idea was, what if we had a preacher training school that was for families only? Well, men wouldn't have to worry about leaving family behind, wouldn't have to worry about trying to deal with that tension. Families could come, the men could take the full program, the ladies could have their own ladies program, the children all go to school together. It's not a commune, but they all go to public school together, but they have a lot of friends. And there are 7 families there. And this is one of the families. This man is handicapped in a wheelchair, but he's been very effective in preaching and teaching even before he got to go to school. And you look at that and you say, well, there's 5 children. That's kind of a big family. No, in Malawi it's not. In fact, by the numbers, they're probably going to have 2 or 3 more children. Those 7 families represent, on campus, there are 60 people on campus with 7 families. That is the norm. The birth rate is usually 6+ anywhere you look on the continent of Africa. And that is going well. Like I said, it's a new model. It's the first of its kind, but we believe it's going to be serving a good purpose there. This is a school in southwestern Nigeria, Abia State. This is a different situation as well. This is a new partnership. This school began in 1966 and has had its phases over the year, doing well, not doing well. And the board has its own board and that kind of thing. They reached out to us and said, we know what you're doing. We've seen your products. We know your reputation. We need help. We want you to help us raise the bar. And I never presumed that we can do that, but we listened to their proposal and met with them. I did, and another one of our guys met with them more than once. and we worked through different curriculums and things like that. And we are now working together. And they didn't want anything from us. They don't get any funding from us or anything like that. They just wanted to do better. And it is pleasing to know that our reputation has earned its way to making people think that, hey, they can help us do better. And that was their idea, and we're happy to be working with them. I show you this picture. It's a big plot of land, and there's a lot of potential there, and I think we're going to try to help them maximize some of that as well. But they have, I think it's 25 students there now, and so that's a new partnership that we're involved in the country of Nigeria. By the way, just again, circle back with Nigeria. 1/5 of everybody in Africa is Nigerian, 20%. Now you think about that. There's 53 countries in Africa. One of them has 20% of the population. And I got curious because this is how my brain works. I thought, okay, there's 50 states in the U.S. What if 20% of our population was in one state? And what state would that be? Well, the most popular state is California. And it still only holds 12% of the U.S. population, best I can figure out. And so you have in Nigeria a population percentage relative to the continent that is nearly double what the population percentage in California is relative to this country. And it's just mind-boggling how many people are there, and therefore opportunities as well. All right, here's another situation, same scenario. This preacher training school in Brazil began many years ago in Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo is a city of 23 million people. By the way, I want you to look at that map. When we talk about sheer numbers of people, you've got Sao Paulo at 23 million, Rio right next to it there at 13 million, and then north at Belo Horizonte is 6 million. Somebody who's fairly good at math can tell you right now that's a lot of people in only 3 cities. The school had been in Sao Paulo over a period of time. It closed. It reopened in Belo Horizonte. There were 3 American missionary families there, all with a Freed-Hardeman connection. One of them I already knew very well. And when it was decided that the last American family was going to leave, he reached out to me and said, can you guys help us raise the bar? Again, this is their terminology, help us raise the bar. Again, didn't know if we could or not, but we decided to look at it, and we've worked through merging these 2 schools, and we are really, really happy about this opportunity. The director is a guy named Alex Girodo. He went to Freed-Hardeman, played on the soccer team, was the goalie for the soccer team, got his master's at Heritage, super, super sharp guy, and we're really, really excited about this partnership. It's our first partnership of any sort in the country of Brazil, which is also one of the most populous countries in the world. And we're excited about that opportunity as well, and look forward to possibly even growing the work in other places in that country. And then this is the most recent school. This school began last week in a city called Onitsha. You can see it right there in the middle of the map. Also, while you're looking at the map, there's Benin. You can see Benin that I mentioned a minute ago. Wari, we have a school there. The school in Wari has so many students it needs 2 campuses. The school in Port Harcourt has so many students it needs 2 campuses. And actually both of those campuses offer a part-time and a full-time option. We just had a graduation in Port Harcourt. They had 60 students in that location, and the director there is begging me to allow them to have more, and I told him that would require a 3rd location. He said, okay, let me do it, and I said, well, we're not ready for that just yet. So incredible opportunities. You move north you see the city of Abuja. Abuja is the capital of Nigeria, one of the fastest growing cities on the entire continent. And the school there just had a graduation as well. They've had between 40 and 50 students the entire time that school has been operating. So the school here in Onitsha began last week, and a similar situation. we were looking at somewhere between 10 and 20 students, but what happened was there were 38 qualified applicants. And so on the first day of classes, they had classes in 2 different locations with 2 different teachers. And again, just an incredible opportunity. We are accustomed to a culture where you announce something like that and people run away. And in their culture, people run to it. And it is refreshing that they want to know this. Most of the students in this school in Benin, Warri, Port Harcourt, and Abuja, and then there's a few others that aren't on the map. Most of the students in those schools are already preaching somewhere. They've never been to a preacher training school, and they're not a, quote, full-time preacher, but they're preaching somewhere regularly. And so they jump at the opportunity to receive this level of education. And so we're thrilled to be working in this city as well. So that brings us to 62 schools around the world with more than 1,000 students. It is exciting. When I hear somebody say the church isn't growing anymore, I know that's an American talking. My perspective is very different. I'm blessed. I'm in 15 to 20 different countries every year around the world. This year I've just recently gotten back from India and the Philippines, in addition to some of these African places. And the church is growing. Around the world, the church is growing. And it's exciting. And we need to be thankful for that. And I'm thankful for you and for the part that you play in helping us do that. I'm just going to leave this here. This is my email address. If you have any questions, well, you might be able to catch me in the foyer, but if you don't, you can email me. And there's our website as well, wetrainpreachers.com. Just seeing if you're paying attention. wetrainpreachers.com. If you want to know more, you can go to the website. Right in the middle is a drop-down tab, International Schools. Choose the first option. Be a landing page on the left. You can see where the different regions in the world are and where the schools are and more about them. There's a lot more. If you want to know more, you can find it there, including the schools that you are directly involved in. I send out about once a month, I send out an email that contains links to the different school updates. We require every school give us an update. And those are sent out about once a month. If you would like to be on that mailing list, I can hand you my phone today and you can add your name to the app and you'll get the next one, which will be it'll be next Tuesday, not 2 days from now, but next Tuesday. So again, thank you. We appreciate you so much. Your name is known and appreciated in many places that perhaps you're not even aware of. But we appreciate your good work and your partnership with us in reaching souls for eternity. You know, we care about those souls, and that's why we do what we do, because of the inherent value of every single soul. No matter where they are, or where they live, or what language they speak, or what they look like, every single soul is worth so much that Jesus gave His life for them. Romans 5:8, God demonstrated His love toward us in that while we were yet what? The best of the best? No. Even while we were yet sinners, He died for us. That's everybody in the world, and that's you too. And so we care about all of those souls. That's why we go to the great lengths that we do. But we care about you every bit as much as we do any of them. And that's why tonight I want to tell you the good news is Jesus died for you too. And if you would repent of your sins and be baptized for the forgiveness of those sins, God will forgive those sins and add you to His kingdom and make you His own and adopt you as His child. It may be that tonight you have a need that you need to make this spiritual family aware of. Maybe you need to confess sin, ask for prayer, whatever it might be. If there's some way that we can help you, we want to pray with you and pray for you. If we can help you in any way while we are standing